Hello, manic.mercurian here with your personal astrocartography reading. And for this reading, you were asking a pretty straightforward question: what would be the most favorable places for you to live? I know that you have lived in the United States for, I believe, pretty much your whole life, or the majority of your life. So I'll take a special look at the United States, but then I'll also kind of just cover the whole world kind of briefly, seeing what areas would be good for you to live in and which areas would bring out different, parts of your life more so, and in which areas would you experience different energies. That's kind of what astrocartography is. And I wanted to say that, of course, when it comes to astrocartography, sometimes you'll get kind of weird things like, that you'll, of course, have to use your own judgment on. I think that should go without saying, really. So for example, like with your Jupiter midheaven line going over the Atlantic Ocean, if you're by yourself, on a ship over the ocean, is your career going to really be as great as your Jupiter midheaven line would suggest? Obviously that is going to be up to you, up to the situation. Or sometimes you might have a really auspicious line over a part of the world that might be very dangerous. So when it comes to those situations, of course, you have to use your own judgment. But looking at the map here, starting out with the United States, some things did kind of stand out to me. So something I wanted to mention is, looking at if we start out from the east part of the country, you have your Saturn descendant and looks like Uranus descendant line, going over, or excuse me, Neptune and Saturn descendant lines going over the East Coast, like around Washington D.C., Maryland, Pennsylvania, New York State, that kind of area. So this area would make your relationships very strange, confusing, challenging. It would be you'd feel like you're lost in a cloud with relationships, and the kind of people you'd attract would be very kind of strange and hard to figure out, very challenging you. So I just wanted to mention that. But looking to more favorable places, one that stood out to me, and this actually stands out, even looking at the whole world. I kind of just cruised around the world map before I started this, and even looking at the whole world, this is particularly interesting and auspicious. I think that you have your Jupiter ascendant line going right over this kind of west part of the country, and it kind of skims the west coast here in southeastern Alaska and British Columbia, and it goes right by the cities of Vancouver, BC, and also Seattle. And then kind of inland more so, and looks like it would go by Las Vegas maybe, and Tucson, Arizona. So this pink line, really any pink line on the map, but especially this pink line, is going to be a really great place to live on or near. Now, it shows your birth location with this little cross. So you were almost within range of that from when you were born. I think it would be a little bit too far to experience, but if you were just a little bit farther east, you would have been under the influence of this line. So the Jupiter ascendant line, basically, it's having the energy of Jupiter onto the ascendant. So the ascendant is basically your self identity, your ego, how you project yourself. And Jupiter is a benefic, so it expands things. It's usually, the planet of expansion. It brings fortune, good luck, optimism. So you would have this really kind of shiny, bright, optimistic personality. You would come across, very pleasing to others, and people just you'd have like this radiant personality about you if you're on this line more. So it would bring out that side of you. So living on that line, really anywhere would be good, and you can see it goes down into Mexico as well. But especially within the United States, that stands out to me the most. I would avoid these kind of eastern areas that looks really challenging and confusing. Florida, South Carolina, and then going up into kind of the Midwest here. This grouping of lines looks really strange to me. We've got Uranus descendant, which would bring some unpredictable connections and relationships. Moon ascendant, which would bring out the more emotional side of your personality and more nurturing side, and then Chiron ascendant would make you kind of more of a mentor or a teacher. So that we've got some really weird karmic kind of emotional energies there. So not really necessarily negative, but not necessarily positive either. That kind of stood out to me. Probably would conjure up some weird experiences, for sure. And then I would avoid the Mars ascendant line. Now, on the plus side, being on your Mars line can make you more confident, more outgoing, more decisive, more fiery and magnetic. But it can also lead you to violence, so just lead you to violent situations where you might witness, more car accidents or just kind of crazy accidents or events along that line. Things would be more volatile, more abrupt. If you're a person who lacks Mars energy in your chart, this could be maybe a good thing to be more confident. But generally, it's kind of a dangerous energy and more volatile, more accident prone. So really, if we're looking at the United States, by far, what stands out to me would be, Washington, Oregon, even maybe Idaho, Nevada, Arizona, and then, going up into BC and then down into kind of coastal Western Mexico here. So that's what stands out to me in North America for the most part. And I will record all this, or I'll take notes. I've taken some notes, and then I'll leave those in the description, so you don't have to just pick out these areas from me babbling here. But looking at the rest of the world, first let's follow this pink line because it does make landfall again in South America. So if you wanted to go to, southern South America like Tierra del Fuego, Argentina, Chile, you'd have that same line there, so you'd be more outgoing and optimistic again there. There's a lot of lines that go through Brazil for you, so, I did look at this. It looks not particularly positive. We've got the same lines that go through North America, so the Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. So a lot of really strange and mysterious kind of energies and vibes come up from this combination, and Saturn makes things more challenging, particularly with your relationships with that Saturn descendant line. So, I mean, Brazil doesn't look totally terrible, but it doesn't look necessarily fun. You do have your Venus midheaven line going through here, so that could make your career really great. And then it just goes through Greenland here, so I don't know how favorable that would be. So, not much to say really down here. For the most favorable locations, I'm mostly looking for Sun, Venus, and Jupiter. And here you do have a Sun line and a Venus line, but then they're kind of mixed in with all these other energies. In kind of this northern coastal Brazil, there's Sun, Venus, and well, yeah, Sun and Venus in particular would be really positive. But I mean, I'm pretty sure this is a really jungly area. I'm not sure um, how favorable that would actually be. But if you were kind of at the mouth of the Amazon River, Sun midheaven line would show a really, prominence in your career and your public image, and then Venus would show very similar as well, a really favorable career and public image. You would be seen as being very attractive in your career and your public image. So there's that location, I guess. More realistically, though, I would say we've got the Jupiter midheaven line, so another Jupiter line that goes along Western Europe and then Western Africa. So if you were in Portugal, Ireland, Northern Ireland, Morocco, this Jupiter midheaven line would bring expansion to your career and your public image. So you'd be seen as someone, powerful, someone optimistic, someone who brings a lot of energy and vitality with your whatever you're doing for your work, or even just in your reputation as well. So that would be really powerful, particularly if you wanted to expand your career, I guess. And again, these other lines, I almost would just ignore these because if you're looking for a more favorable life, these don't necessarily bring that up. They either make things more challenging or they're just kind of neutral, like Neptune and Uranus, just making things more strange and unpredictable. I mean, if you were really bored and you just wanted things to be more interesting, then that could maybe be favorable. Um, or with the moon, if you wanted to be more sensitive or emotional, then that could be good. But I don't know necessarily if that's something that we're typically looking for. So, as for like Eastern Europe and most of Africa, nothing really stands out to me. The Middle East and Russia stand out though. So, just because you have your Sun and Venus lines going through here, so Sun and Venus descendant lines going through Ethiopia, the middle, pretty much right through the middle of Saudi Arabia, Iraq. Um, and again, I don't know how safe some of these areas are, but then it goes up through Russia here too. So these two lines are what I'm looking at here, these yellow and dark green lines. So with Sun and Venus on the descendant in these areas, that would bring a lot of prominence, pleasure, expansion in your relationships. So you would attract people that are very attractive, very outgoing, very generous. and you yourself in your relationships, the experience of your relationship would have that energy as well, being really fun and kind of sunshiny, more pleasurable. So that's another area that stands out as well. And and then again, it kind of repeats. So that now we have a Jupiter line again, the Jupiter descendant. So that would bring expansion with your relationships. You'd be attracted to people that are very optimistic. You'd maybe meet people that are very outgoing, charismatic, generous, and around your Jupiter descendant line as well. So that goes through Bangladesh, eastern India, sort of central China, like almost like eastern Tibet, central China, Mongolia, and then through sort of Siberia. And then this actually looks really great. Now, how many people would you actually meet in Siberia? Maybe not a lot, but this convergence of your Jupiter descendant line with your Sun IC line and your Venus IC line, this would be really positive because you have the energy of all three benefics in one area. So this would be a lot of expansion, pleasure, and abundance with your relationships and with your home life as well. So that's probably going to be more theoretical unless you actually go out there and test it and see if you meet anyone or if your home life gets more positive or enjoyable in this kind of region of Siberia. But that is something kind of interesting. Other than that, Japan is interesting because you have so many lines there. In your chart, you have a lot of these energies that I keep saying that they're kind of weird, for lack of a better word, just because again, Moon makes things more emotional. Uranus and Neptune make things more strange and unpredictable, mysterious, and they're going through Indonesia, Philippines, Japan. So not necessarily the best, especially with the Saturn ascendant line that can kind of constrict things. You could like lose weight there, for example, because Saturn is constricting your appearance, your self-expression. Same with over, going back again to Western North America, being on your Jupiter ascendant line, you could actually gain weight there, and that could be, I mean, that can be positive or negative. You could be it could be fat, it could be muscle as well. With the Jupiter ascendant line, I would think it would be generally positive. But that is something to just think about, I guess, that it expands the ascendant, so it expands your self-expression, your appearance, your whole kind of personality would expand there. So as a whole, I mean, looking at the whole world, I really think this kind of unadulterated Jupiter ascendant line is the most powerful. I think having a planet ascendant line is the most powerful in general anyway, because the ascendant is so much of your own identity. It's not really pertaining just to a specific part of your life. It's really pertaining to your whole being and your whole, it's pertaining to you, to your identity. So Jupiter ascendant line, I think that that would be my pick. And especially, it happens to be in a geographically convenient location anyway. So this is what I would go with out of anything, but just kind of for curiosity or just because it might be interesting, I will take note of all those other locations I listed off as well. Since I don't know if you're traveling, you could have maybe a positive experience in one of these other areas too. But that's pretty much what I see. So let me know what you think, and look forward to hearing your feedback. Thanks for this reading. It's definitely interesting, and I'll talk to you later.